What's up everyone? Welcome back to another Planet Coaster 2 video. This is Worldwide Benny, and today we're going to be just going over some odds and ends of the park, cleaning up some areas, and actually, as you're seeing right now, starting on the monorail. My next major video I'm going to be doing will be actually a full creation of the monorail station. I'm very much looking forward to it. This is my next big project in Cyber City, and it will actually take us beyond just Cyber City. My plan for a while now has been to break up this park into 3 distinct sections, Cyber City being the first one that I've been working on, and then outside of that I plan on doing a wasteland style futuristic area, and then in addition to that a futuristic kind of Elysium style visual water park area. So this monorail is going to be the transportation that takes you between those two. Between those 3. And yeah, just getting it laid out for basics now, not doing anything too crazy. I don't actually do much work on the station. Really wanted to get it set up just to get this view worked out. It's going to look super cool. I do some lighting at the end of the video on that portion of the monorail as well, so you're not going to want to miss that. But getting the height dialed in for now, nothing too fancy. If y'all didn't see already, I finally put out the cinematic and POV video of Chop Shop Chase. The ride is done. I am super stoked that it is wrapped up, and I am super happy with how it turned out. It's really a cool ride. Some fun multiverse coaster elements. The theming was a ton of fun to put together, and if you haven't gone and watched that already, please go give it a watch. It's the biggest ride that I've done so far in this park, and while I do love the street ball slide, board slide ride I worked on, Chop Shop Chase is obviously my favorite in the park so far. It was a big undertaking. Happy to see it done. It's an awesome ride. But yeah, this monorail is the next thing I'm super excited about. I was trying to figure out if there was a way to make the supports actually come down onto the path, because I wasn't super worried about supports being on this path for this. But apparently you can't, so I end up kind of reworking the location of it to make it work as best as it could. I thought about moving the path at first, but I just ended up coming up with all these, jank alternatives that I wasn't a big fan of. So as you'll see in just a minute, we ended up just kind of re-angling the ride itself, or the monorail itself, to where it doesn't interfere with the path and it still has a support system on it. So yeah, today in this video, you're going to be seeing me work on this monorail at the beginning, but then the major portion of the video after this is going to be actually working on those buildings you see in downtown Cyber City. I have gotten those buildings all like 85-90% of the way done, and I might still fill out the base floor of those buildings with some shops later on. One of them has quite a few shops in it, but the rest, aside from the one that has the Sky Tower in it, are mainly just shell buildings, and they really needed roofs on top of them, and they needed the roofs to be properly designed because they've been unfinished since we started. So that's going to be the next big chunk of this video, but for now you're going to see I'm working on the monorail, getting it moved over to the next location of the park. That'll be the wasteland area. So that hill that I designed over there is going to be, oh yeah, there's a good looking view right there. Looks great, the right height. That wasteland area, that is going to be kind of backed up against that hill over there that I just created. So I'll probably end up making it a mud sort of color and then doing some sand on other parts. That's where I plan to put my first big coaster. Obviously, Chop Shop Chase is a large coaster, but it's not like a super tall, fast, Intamin RMC style coaster. It's much more of a thematic ride, more akin to a dark ride than an actual, large scale roller coaster. So I plan on doing my first big one of those, probably do 2 big coasters like that over in that wasteland area. But Cyber City, the main coaster for this area of the park, is going to be Chop Shop Chase. I have plans to do maybe a kiddie coaster in this area of the park, potentially over by the Japanese garden, potentially might do a small coaster in the like brickyard area that I did with the board slide street ball themed ride I made, because I plan on fleshing out that area of this portion of the park a little more. But yeah, creating the roofs of these buildings has been something I've put off for a very, very long time, and it is just simply time to get around to it. I have to fill it out with plenty of windows and just like some framing pieces. Basically designed this up here to where it would be like a balcony railing, as you're seeing from those half-high walls right there, and then gonna do 3 wide on the windows, center them and scale them. And then from there, we're going to add some more pieces. All of these buildings, as you will see in the background, need completed roofs. None of them have them. And I knew it would be a little tricky to put roofs on because they're all just a little bit different and the proportions don't line up perfectly for each of them. Heck, some of these buildings don't even have all the glass on the sides for windows. So this has been kind of an undertaking that I've been putting off for a while because I wanted to do more fun things like put together rides and start a monorail. But yeah, get these lights laid out here, get some glass set up on the other side of the building there. These buildings were super fun to put together, and especially this one right here that you're looking at right now with the Sky Tower. I'll probably do a better breakdown of what I did there later on whenever I kind of clean up the theming for it. It's pretty close as is, but I actually ended up not capturing the footage whenever I built that ride accidentally, so I showed it off in a video earlier. But if you have missed a couple videos on the channel, you might be wondering where this thing came from. I built it one evening a couple weeks back. It wasn't super complicated, just took the actual flat ride itself of the view tower and then put it into one of these blueprints of buildings that I had created. And it was a little tricky because the base is round and these buildings are obviously very squarular. So I've had to kind of adjust the base for that. But as you can see right there, it turned out pretty solid. Get some of the greenery over here by the Q exit line just to flesh it out a little bit more. Nothing too fancy. And then deleting some that needed to go. Then I believe we're going to move down to that lower area in just a second and do some terraforming to get the... Oh no, we're actually going to keep working on this building here. So just moving more windows around. Was trying to get that to not be super blocked on the other light there, so it doesn't just look like 2 fluorescent bulbs overlapping each other. Looks like I don't actually make it do anything fancier, so at this point I was just ready to get these looking solid from a distance. I didn't need to do anything super fancy, super crazy, so just getting some windows put down, and then I believe I copy them over here, toss them onto another building here. Pretty easy to do. And then we got to move over some of these other top windows here just to fill out the space. Nothing too fancy. I really liked how these buildings ended up turning out. The scaffolding on the sides, or the like that metal framing that I used of different colors, I think is really, really fun. And at night especially, those fluorescent bulbs just look awesome. They reflect off of the glass that's all around them, and it's sick. Again, I've said it a million times, love the lighting in this game. Next, I wanted to kind of spice up the roof of this building a little bit. So just grabbing some of these utility props right here and adjusting the colors and placing them on there, filling out the roofs over here. Again, I wasn't kidding when I said this is an odds and ends episode. I definitely was just cleaning up little parts of the park that needed cleaning up before I move on to any major projects. Right here, we're adding some trim to the roofs. I actually end up adding trim to pretty much all of the roofs. I use this trim at the floor of most of these buildings as well. It's a simple piece to add that gives a lot of dimension to the buildings and helps them feel just less flat and boring. You'll see I add it to the rest of the buildings in a bit, and up close it looks okay, but from a distance it actually adds quite a bit to the building, as you'll see towards the end of the video. We get it copied over there. I couldn't decide if I wanted it on the front of the buildings, so I just kind of moved around the back and side pieces for now, but I do believe here in a second I copy it and move it over to the front. It looks better that way. So gonna do the same over here on the green building. They're already starting to come together. I don't know if I will make these buildings fully accessible to the public in this game. It would take a lot of stairs and weird pathing design work, I feel like, to make something worthwhile inside of them. And even then, building out the interiors for these buildings would be just a crazy workload. I saw one guy on the subreddit for this game. I cannot remember the name of his account, but he had created like a Japanese like vintage apartment complex that had fully completed interiors, and props to that guy. I love theming in this game, but I don't think I have the patience to do like full-blown hyper-realistic interiors. I also really like making rides, so these buildings are probably going to stay less function, more form, and we'll use that time in other areas of the park, like designing more coasters and flat rides for you guys. Just getting more of this trim laid out. It looks really good. I'm not super worried about the inside of that building. Again, it's more just an aesthetic choice until the tower goes up to the top. Above it, seeing the monorail there go by is really cool. I might do some design work later on the top sides of this building, just since guests would technically see it from the monorail if they, rode by. I might throw some, utility units or piping or something up there, some AC units. So doing a little terraforming right here, just to, finish out the foundation on that red building right there. And I didn't want to block off too many of the windows from that other one. That building right there on the left, that purple building, I plan on putting some storefronts into it. Right now, it's like straight up totally empty, and it's got a lot of space up front. Same with that blue one right there that is pressed right up against the pathway. It only makes sense to put in actual like facilities in there. So that's on the agenda for 2025. So getting some cherry blossom trees set up over there, and then we're going to finish lining the pathing. I really like this these planters I put together with the black and blue marble and then the blue plants. The blue plants look kind of fake, but I'm okay with that. It makes sense, I feel like, with the vibe of this downtown plaza, that it would be like a hyper perfect, ultra blue colored plant that matches a lot of the buildings in the plaza. So yeah, just getting those squared away. I realized that it's a whole lot quicker to just duplicate them and then rotate them holding down Z as opposed to using the advanced move tool like I used to. So that was a good thing I figured out and got sped up for this video. So we get these laid out entirely, and then I believe the next thing we're going to work on is some cool uplighting for the monorail. You'll see what I mean when we get there, but I just seeing what the monorail looked like from the downtown view, it inspired me with a cool idea, and again, we'll get there. So right here, trying to lay down some corner pieces. Thought I would try to figure out a way to make the edges rounded over there, but I ended up deciding to cap off this end because the entrance to that brickyard area is gonna need some sort of different landscaping and maybe planters or something different for the walkway getting over to it. So next we're going to just throw down some rocks to add a little bit of dimension in front of the buildings. Nothing too fancy. I realized you can turn on ignore scenery for the scenery brush tools, which I highly suggest doing for anyone using them. Otherwise, it's just really finicky with where it allows you to use the brush. We're just copying and roughly pasting now some lanterns. I might jump over to night here in a second. Yep, and just take a look at how things are. And this is where I end up deciding that monorail needs some sort of lighting, because when it goes by in the day, it looks great, but when it goes by at night, it kind of blends in, doesn't look like too much. So you'll see here in a second, we jump over and use our trusty spotlights and get them lined up on the support structure. Copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. And yeah, we end up doing them up and down on these support structures and do a variance of colors. I like to think that I could theme these lights for different colors depending on the season of the year. Christmas red and green, Halloween orange. For this though, I just go with a pretty generic set of colors that I thought looked fun and futuristic. It's like a pale blue or a turquoise, a purple, and a yellow. Scooch all those down, get them copied, take a look back. Already looks a heck of a lot better. And then I want them to also point down to show off the rest of the support structures. So I slide them down and then end up having to go one by one here in a second and copy, paste, and flip them over face down. So it's like one big double light unit, as you're going to see right here. Just a cool look for the park. Nothing super fancy, just odds and ends to kind of polish this section of Cyber City, because I want to get it cleaned up and polished before I move on to probably the Wasteland section of the park next. I've been holding off on building any actual water parks in the game just because of the flume physics issue, honestly. I'm not like super upset about it, but they look jank, they look wonky. I saw in the latest, it wasn't a Frontier Direct, but the latest video they put out, they're working on like dynamic physics, or not physics, but dynamic visuals for the flumes where, you know, they actually bend according to where they are in the raft. So I'll probably jump into the water parks once they look a little better, but for now, I'm just going to keep to coasters. So at this point, we are just taking a look at some cool cinematic shots of downtown, seeing what it looks like to have the monorail pass by. The roofs look great now that they're finished. The monorail looks awesome lit up at night, and Cyber City is really, really coming together. Next video is probably going to come after the Christmas holiday, so thanks again for tuning in, y'all. We're going to be working on some cool stuff in the Brickyard area next, and probably develop that monorail station. So if you've been enjoying the channel, please give me a subscribe, smash that like button, go back and watch the Chop Shop POV and cinematic video. I highly recommend it. Put a lot of time into that ride, and I'm super excited to show it off for y'all. So thanks again for tuning in. This is Worldwide Benny, and I will see you in the next one.